The year before COVID, I was living in London and I was in my rock bottom. I could not sleep without red wine. I'm so far gone. Like, I knew I wasn't well. The entire time I was hiding it. I don't know what I'm gonna do and I'm gonna have to go on medication. And that lack of mindset shifted. Everything changed when...
From early exposure to modelling, gaining great success worldwide, but slipping down a destructive path, grappling with insomnia, disordered eating, and anxiety. This led her to finding her passion and purpose in wellness and podcasting, making an impact on people all across the globe, and let's just say her life has taken a massive turn for the better. Our guest today is Dominique Elissa. What sort of phase are you in your life, would you say?
I feel more driven and full of purpose than ever because what I'm doing is helping people. And I had such an unhealthy relationship with food. I was having red wine and sleeping pills every night to fall asleep. I was so unhealthy. However, I'm just trying to share to young women that once they start prioritizing themselves, the eating healthy and the training happens with ease. You don't really have to think about it all the time.
You've recently got engaged.
You know what the thing is? I never thought I'd be 100% on someone.
How do you know? Like, do you have any tips on choosing the right partner?
What comes to mind straight away is...
Dom, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Why do you think it's so important that models should have things outside of modeling to keep themselves occupied?
Well, I look back at my career and I look at the things that used to cloud my mind. The main thing was comparison. And that has been the main thing I've been trying to let go for my entire life. And that comparison really stemmed from my jobs basically coming from what I look like. And that's the truth. And the way I've been able to let go of comparison has been finding my purpose, which has been creating Self-Dom, doing events, the journals, and the pod. And I have to say that that ability to find my purpose has given me more substance on set, and it's allowed me to be a better model, a better personality, and better at my job. I think back to my younger self when I was 15 when I was scouted to be a model, and it was all I cared about. I let go of friendships to chase these goals and to be this perfect thing that wasn't attainable. And seeing that shift in myself makes me so sure that models need to have something else they're striving for. And I really believe the agencies should be having workshops to help girls find something else they love. Even just encouraging them to never stop learning, maybe doing a course, even if it's just social media and posting there, but just doing modeling, it fucks with your head, to be honest.
When you say comparison, are you more so comparing yourself to a past version of yourself or comparing yourself to others in the industry or both?
I think comparing myself to others in the industry, I would actually say comparing yourself to a past self can be a really positive thing for comparison. It's a way to reflect.
Do you think, though, this is interesting because through my experience of people I know that have been in the industry, this comparison of self has been quite a battle and it has led to things like the eating disorders and the excessive training. And the reason for that is because you might get a campaign shoot and be on every billboard in Sydney. And when you get up on that billboard, you are 3 kilos lighter in that photo than you are right now. And then you go, oh shit, I didn't get booked for a week. Maybe it's because I'm 3 kilos lighter than what I was when I was getting booked. So then you spiral into all of these things. Do you feel like there is a negative attachment to comparing yourself to past versions of yourself?
What came to my mind then is you're comparing yourself to your physical. And how about comparing yourself to your success, your drive, your passion, your purpose? And I believe that, yes, you may have looked really ripped on that board, whoever this person is we're speaking about, but were they happy in that photo? Probably not. Probably dehydrated to get the abs. And maybe this person now is living in that purpose and they're joyful. Maybe they have a family. I think a big thing is changing the narrative of what you're comparing yourself to. I think people need to stop comparing themselves to that physical attribute. And I actually get quite upset because people used to look at my account as so aspirational and, oh my God, about my exterior. I was so unhappy during that time. And I still have girls today, and, my PT Giannis, he has girls who come in and I just want to look like Dom. Girls say that. And, it breaks my heart because I want people to say, I want to be as driven as Dom. I want to have that radiant energy like Dom. We need to stop comparing the physical because there's so much more. When I look at you, Chris, I'm like, you're so bubbly, you're driven, like you're your best self now. And I obviously don't know what goes through your head, but the man I see in front of me, you are your best self right now. I haven't seen you for a few years. We were reflecting on that before, but damn, you've grown.
Yeah, that's so cool. But like the thing is that's interesting about this is you're saying flipping the narrative, and rather than looking at the looks, looking at how that person is in that state and how they're viewing themselves and feeling about themselves and the things they had to do to get to that look. But then at the start of the conversation, you said the reality of the industry is that you're being ranked and being booked based on your looks. So the metric of success is being booked more, and the way you get booked more is by the way that you look for the most part. So it's kind of this polarity that's quite hard to bunk because you can't disregard the look because that's the very thing that gets you on the billboard in the first place.
Yeah.
Is it very hard in the industry of modeling having to balance this way of how you actually feel versus how you look, because the looks is what's getting the work. And like if you try and prioritize feeling, you might gain too much weight or, whatever it might be. And then a byproduct of that is you don't get booked. So then you're not seen as successful and then you go down this spiral. Is it a hard thing to balance when you're modeling?
It's definitely a hard thing to balance, and I respect everything you're saying. I feel grateful that in my position, I am more of a commercial style of model. So I don't need to be rake thin. And I can't speak for the girls who have to be a size 0 and have to walk Paris Fashion Week. That's a completely different ball game for me. From my own experience, when I've been in my flow state, where things happen with ease, it's easy for me to get up and train. It's easy for me to eat healthy. I don't think twice about it. Whilst my old self, all I ever thought about was what's my next meal? When's my next workout? Like, what a sad life to all you think about is food and exercise. Now it's more of healthy habits. And for me, I'm just trying to share to young women that once they start prioritizing themselves, the eating healthy and the training happens with ease. You don't really have to think about it all the time.
I agree with that entirely. Because when you feel really good about yourself, you've got something to strive towards. It's probably tying into that thing outside of modeling, having something that you're actually getting excited about out of the modeling, then you're not tying your identity to the modeling thing specifically. So then when you have obviously the industry can be fluctuating in the sense that you might be booked for a whole week straight and then not booked for 2 weeks. You're still making way more money than anyone in a normal job, but because you're not working for say 2 weeks in a row, you're considered a failure or whatever, right? In your own mind. And so then you're battling this. But when you can actually get something outside of modeling that you're driven towards, like yourself, Dom, and the things like this, you don't feel worthless in a sense when you're not working and modeling. You've got something else to strive towards. It's probably a big factor that can allow you to feel good. Because like I just go back and I'm a bit scarred from the industry, if I'm completely honest. But the thing is it's not all bad, but what I've seen is like the importance of having something outside of it, because it can really, really fuck with you, right? It can really mess with your mind, that comparison thing of others, but then also yourself. But what's interesting is when you're in that moment, when you're focusing on the next meal and doing all this, like, were you getting a lot of work back then?
That's the saddest thing, is that I was working every day and I had such an unhealthy relationship with food. I was having red wine and sleeping pills every night to fall asleep. I was riddled with insomnia, anxiety. I was so unhealthy. However, I have to say I hid it from the world. So clients weren't booking me knowing that, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
it was something that I knew wasn't a good thing. So I hid it. From what I've heard by being on sets, brands want to work with people who they get on with, they're bubbly. So I still was bringing that to set. But then I was so depleted once I sat in my car after a day shoot because I gave everything, because all I was chasing was just validation from strangers. And I'm so grateful for my career, and it's really set me up. And if I didn't hit those rock bottoms, I wouldn't be where I am now. But I'm just so passionate in not letting every girl in this industry have to hit that rock bottom. And it works two ways, because you can be working every day, so then you feel like you need to maintain that. Or as you said, you might not be working, so you blame your physical appearance for you not working. So I completely understand that. However, if you look at success, let's change it from shoots to where I am now. I'm literally living my vision board right now. And I would not change my schedule to be shooting every day. I fucking love my life right now.
Yeah, it's very cool. I just think it's really interesting because if you look at the progression of your life, and when you got scouted at 15 years old, you probably would have been like wrapped, like, oh my God, I'm going to be like one of those
That was my dream.
models that everyone looks towards. And you're in such a naive state at 15, you don't know what you're about to embark on. And then you embark on it, and I think it probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably go on this stage of like one thing led to another, one thing led to another, and then you kind of keep going down this rabbit hole of the beauty industry and modeling until you get to a point where you're like, fuck, I can't sleep. I'm wearing this mask going into work, and I'm kind of battling demons in a simple sense. Every single day because of what this has spiraled into. When you go back to those times, was it extremely hard to have this mask on going into work and just kind of trying to fit this character to in turn get more work and live in this cycle? Was it really challenging?
It was really challenging. The biggest thing I was challenged by was the sleep. Like, I was an insomniac, and it was the hardest thing because, as I said, my head noise was already bad. So then when you can't sleep and your head's on the pillow and you're just thinking about, this person got this job, what about that casting I went to? I didn't get that. I'm going to meet new people tomorrow. I wonder if they like me. So many thoughts ruminating. It led me down the hole of drinking and sleeping pills. Like, I would take the mini red wines of my Qantas flights, take them to my hotel room because I was so dependent on that. And yeah, it is really heartbreaking now thinking about, I look at my younger self and I get really upset about it. But I feel that I represent light at the end of the tunnel. And when I've shared my story, the amount of women, models and not, I also want to preface here that I feel like all women go through this, whether you're a woman or not. Society validates women on their looks. Look at Instagram. Look at all the people with millions of followers. They're aesthetically beautiful. And that's a really hard truth. It's something that all women have to struggle with. So I share my story to inspire all women to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And honestly, I thought I would never be able to have kids because I couldn't imagine not having a drink.
Yeah, and I guess the male version of that is there's a pressure for men to make all this money and have a six-pack and like, drive nice cars and all of this side of things. And then the women's one is that looks thing, that constant pressure. When you were in those lower times, did it feel really lonely?
Yeah.
Was loneliness a feeling you felt a lot?
Yeah, loneliness was huge. And that's also when I was kind of grateful for social media, because as a model, I was traveling all the time, but I was able to share my life. It actually made me feel less alone in a weird way. But I remember always being in hotel rooms and feeling super alone, even though I've pretty much had a relationship my entire life. My family live in Sydney. I felt alone because I wasn't sharing the core of me. Like, as I said, I had this mask on, so I was not authentic. It wasn't real. And I feel like I couldn't build relationships, real relationships, until I shared that vulnerability with others.
Yeah, I guess loneliness isn't the absence of people, it's the absence of connection.
Mm.
And it's like when you're down bad, struggling alone in a hotel room, but then you're getting all this praise from people about how gorgeous you look, and you post a photo and you've got all these amazing comments and DMs and stuff. Like there's this polarity between how you actually feel and how people think you feel and who you are. And that's the challenge because of that disconnect. It's like, okay, we're not connecting here. And when there's a lack of connection, that's when there's that increased feeling of being alone and loneliness. It's like not someone you can just call and talk about all of this with and share it with. It's like you just feel like you're doing it alone in a sense. And I guess that's a challenge that people in the limelight, especially models, would probably have to go through when they are going through, and hence why they start doing the things like the alcohol and the comparison and the questioning of what you're doing and all the rest of it. Those would all be challenges that you would have faced in those moments, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. And what comes to mind there is that, that 80-year study on happiness, the Harvard study, and the biggest key thing for longevity is connection.
Is that the study? What's the study?
It's the Harvard study. It's the longest study in history, and they were seeing what factors determine longevity and happiness, and the biggest contributor is connection. And not social media connection, real in-person connection. And yeah, I guess I didn't have that. And it does make me think. I see a lot of girls who post a lot and maybe they aren't as happy as they seem to be.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Were you driven back then to progress in your field, modeling wise? Were you a bit over it? Were you like, how are you feeling when you're in those low times, working a lot? Did you want to take it to the next level and model heaps? Did you want to escape? Like, what was your feeling in those moments?
I think in the thick of it, the modeling is what gave me purpose, even though it wasn't my ultimate purpose in the end. But at the time, it was basically I'm living to work. Like, this is everything to me. So that kind of felt how it was at the time. But now I look back, not really.
Yeah. I want to talk about the progression and how self-dom started, and you said like purpose, and that is kind of this unlock for you to take you to the next level in your life. But just before we do, I really want to go back to little Dom and talk about the younger you. How were you as a kid growing up before modeling, and how was family life and life when you were growing up?
I had a really beautiful upbringing. I'm really grateful. I have parents who are together, which is extremely rare these days. But it's almost like I really believe in fate and life path. It was almost like I was destined for every part of my life, like from such a young age. Like, I'm not joking, 11. I would fib at school and tell girls I had shoots the night before, put my mum's makeup on and be like, yeah, it's from the shoot that I had. 11. And then I would throw out my lunch at like age 12, year 6. So I don't know what was the catalyst for this, but something was destined for it. I had the most incredible upbringing, supportive family. But yeah, I was really active. I loved all sports, but something in me wanted to do modeling and saw this future for myself. Like I often say, like, I've always been quite a big manifester, and I often think that, I've been manifesting since I was 11 with that makeup on. Like, I believed I would do it,
Yeah.
And I'm not tall, I'm short. So the industry really changed. I was lucky when I had started, the industry was changing because I'm only 5'7". So there was no chance for me to be a model when I was 11. Like, it wouldn't have happened for me. But I manifested this all from that age. It was crazy.
And were your parents supportive?
So I was scouted actually when I was 13. I was doing an etiquette course called June Daly Watkins, and there's a modeling division as well, but I was doing the etiquette part of the course, and we had to do a runway show at the end, and the agent scouted me and called my parents, but my parents never told me because they didn't want, it was too young. And then at 15, I was scouted at the beach, and I ended up signing with the same people by coincidence, and they told me that my parents didn't tell me. I was furious because, as I said, from 11, I knew it was something I wanted to do. So yeah, that's kind of the funny story how it works, isn't it?
Yeah. I guess it's like you're talking about how you kind of manifested everything and you look back at your life and all of it was, you were meant for everything that's happened. It's that great Steve Jobs quote, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards.
I'm into that.
And it's like, you don't know where you're going to be, but then when you get there, you can look back and know exactly how you got there. And I think that's the great thing about life, because if you can truly be proud of who you are today, then there's not going to be any regrets. You're going to be proud of everything that you've done in your life, good and bad, because that's made you who you are today, which you're proud of, right? But I guess even like the thing around your mum and dad not telling you at 13 probably was a blessing as well. Give you 2 more years of developing before being in the limelight and then getting thrown in at 15. Is there any like visceral memories, or is there any memories you had from back then as like when you first got into modeling? Was there good or bad? Was there anything that like you weren't expecting and you got excited about, or was there any challenges instantly that you faced? Is there anything you remember back then?
I don't know if I've spoken about it on a podcast, but there was actually like when I was really young, like I don't even think I was 16 yet. Like there was quite a photographer who was a bit, you know, predator. He was a bit of a predator, I guess.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't recognize it at the time. And I only recognized it reflecting on it, because when you're so young, you're like, oh my God, this older photographer, you know. But they shouldn't have been doing that on someone who was so young.
Or anyone.
Absolutely, or anyone. But I was so young to know that it wasn't right. But honestly, apart from that, I feel really lucky for the path that I've led. And I've had like a few funny shoot stories where, you know, I shot Samsung Korea and it was just like one of these crazy days with like a non-speaking, English-speaking team, and I was so young and I was like, oh my God. And I remember doing some shoots and thinking, I don't want to do modeling. Like this is not what I want to do, because it was long hours, hair and makeup for hours for the hair shows. But once my career progressed and I was able to travel and do more fashion, I was like, this is it. Like, this is so much fun. And I'm sure you speak to, like, I train with a lot of girls who are 21, 22, and they're just starting. And I hear them, you know, they get their dream job. They shoot the P Nation or something. And they're like, it fills their cup up so much. It's like an athlete winning a race. That's how excited they are. So yeah, I definitely had those moments. And apart from that one man, pretty good experience.
Yeah.
I think I put the criticizing voice in my own head.
What do you mean by that? It's Monday morning, and you know what that means? It means that I just got my Papa Macros delivery for the week, and Papa Macros has been an absolute game changer for me, and let me tell you why. If you guys have been following along, you would know that I am doing a Hyrox competition this month, so with the increase in training load, I also need to increase the amount of food that I'm eating, but when you tie that in with all the other commitments I have, like running this show, I only have so many hours in a day, and Papa Macros has been a game changer for me because I'm getting these meals that I can rest easy knowing that they're nutritious, they're delicious, but extremely convenient as well. But let's have a look in this box and see what we have for dinner and lunch this week. Some of my favorites from this week is the chimichurri steak. We have the rump steak and jasmine rice, the salmon poke bowl. This one is amazing. The Cajun chicken. And the great thing about all of these meals is the portion sizes are like no other. It is so hard to find a meal prep company that actually gives you enough food to make you feel full. And Papa Macros definitely doesn't shy away from that. So if you want to take the cooking out of your hands and still remain to have nutritious, delicious, and convenient meals, then look no further than Papa Macros. I love these things, and I'm sure you will too. So hit the link in the description or the show notes below, or go to papamacros.com.au and use the code Chris Griffin at checkout, and you'll get 10% off your entire order. Once again, hit the link in the description or the show notes below, or go to papamacros.com.au and use the code Chris Griffin at checkout. Let's get right back to the show.
The girl who thought she needed to be skinnier, the girl who thought she wasn't good enough, the girl who thought she needed to get a nose job, all these self-doubt and limiting beliefs. No one instilled them in me. I put them in my own head. And I think that's an important thing to realize. The hard thing with the modeling industry is because there's so much happening online and out of your control, like those voices creep in, even if someone didn't tell you that directly to your face.
Why do you think they creep in? You think because of of the way the industry is, and there's so many things is it the comparison thing maybe that's why it creeps in, or why is all the self-doubt creeping in, do you think?
Well, I mean, you look at magazines, you look at everything, and you see girls with like a pointy nose and like really tall and look different to you. That was something that was a limiting belief from the start. And I remember my agency always being like, you're not like you're typically like typical model looking girl. Like that's what they always said. They're like, you're so inspiring to so many because you're not the typical look. Like that was the one thing though that they kept saying to me. But before that, I just always saw myself different to what other people look like. I think the industry now, there's so much diversity, which is great. But when I first started, there was no diversity. Everyone was blonde, blue eyes. I even had blonde hair. Like I had dyed my hair blonde to fit in. But again, yeah, it's just one of those industries where you're seeing what everyone else is doing. I think if you work corporate, you probably don't know what everyone else is doing. With social media, you know the job you missed out on and you saw who got it.
Yeah. And you launched like a blog in like 2019 or something. In 2020, you wrote something about not like stop stepping on the scales or something like this. And you were saying about to stop weighing yourself and base your feeling off the way you feel, not what the number is that you see. Why was that important for you to write that? Was that something that you struggled with?
The blog that I wrote, like that 2019, I had a blog, which is so 2019 as well. And it was something really important for me to share because I used to weigh myself every day. Like, this is so silly. Let's just go by how we feel. I think that was a pivotal moment for me. It was COVID. And a lot of change was happening. Work was taken away from me. I was able to start going inward, start reflecting on my life, working on the insomnia, working on the anxiety. And I just felt compelled to share these learnings from this time in the industry. By then, it had already been a decade of modeling, and focusing on a scale and going up or down by however many, it doesn't make a difference. Like, focus on how you feel.
And so you mentioned working on the insomnia and the anxiety. What did that look like? Like what did working on those things look like? How did you start?
Well, as I said, it was COVID. So by force, I had to stop working. It was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, which I know it was a terrible time, but for my own personal experience and growth and development, I needed time off. And I have that personality that I would have never taken time off because I thought if I don't go to a job, they're going to find someone else and I'm never going to get booked again. Limited beliefs. And I needed that forced break. And I remember just sleeping like uncontrollably. And anytime I watched a show, zonk out. Like my body just needed me to stop. And I know we hear it all the time. You need to stop, you need to rest to get further, you need to slow down. It is so true. For me, I needed a forced full stop. And it was the best thing because I could work on it. And the pressure of having to wake up in the morning was why I would drink because I'm like, if I don't sleep now, I've got to wake up for the alarm, Everyone deals with that before a flight. Imagine doing that every day.
Yeah.
So, but the fact that I didn't have anything to do the next day, incredible for my mental health.
See, the forced stop, like the forced time to not do anything. You said that the fact that the COVID was a terrible time, but then you mentioned it was so transformative for you. So definitely was not terrible, right? It's like looking at, I think, reprogramming or reframing things that you're going through, no matter how hard, and realizing that they're meant to be and that like they transform you, right? It's like the willingness to stop is not something that you had. You're like, I'm just going to keep going. And probably even when you weren't working, you probably still found a way to make yourself busy. And so then you go into something like COVID where you just can't do a whole lot. And so you're forced and you realize, oh, fuck, I'm falling asleep because my body is wrecked. It needs some time to breathe and think. And then that's cool how one thing can lead to another where you go, okay, like I'm actually progressing towards resting and putting myself first. And then through that, where did the wellness part come into place where you went, okay, I'm going to start writing down my thoughts. I'm going to start breathing or meditating or whatever. Like what made you get into all of these modalities?
So the year before COVID, I was living in London and I was in my rock bottom. I could not sleep without red wine. Anxiety was so bad. I felt completely stuck. And I called my best friend and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm going to have to go on medication. And I want to preface, medication has its place. But my friend said, why don't you try writing down your thoughts? And I thought, I'm so far gone. Like I knew I wasn't well. As I said, the entire time I was hiding it. And it was bubbling. And I was like, I'm hitting that spot of like, it's all going to fall down. Everything's going to break apart in front of me. But I took her advice and I wrote my thoughts down and my life didn't change in an instant, but I felt this little weight off my shoulder, a little bit of peace, a micro shift. And I kept doing gratitude and journaling. And I haven't missed a night for 7 years, even before I went sober, even if I was out partying. Like I have friends who back me, come home 5 a.m. in Mykonos, legs up the wall, journaling. What am I grateful for? Like I have to do it. And so that was the first tool that really transformed my life. It's why I'm so passionate about gratitude, because instead of focusing on the lack of, I didn't get that job, whatever it was, I was focusing on, wow, I'm in London. 18-year-old self would have dreamed of this. I have friends. So many things, simple things to be grateful for. And that lack of mindset shifted. And one of the most profound and impactful prompts is I let go of at night. I let go of that I'm not good enough. I let go of that I didn't get that job. The more you let go of, the more you realize that 99% of things in your mind, if you write them down, just go away. Ease, peace. And yeah, that was really transformative. And once you find one little thing in the mindfulness toolkit that works, you want to explore it all. So I did my Ayurvedic meditation course, so I'm a Vedic meditator now, and I just really delved into the mindset. The breathwork stuff more happened when I met Tom, my partner, because he's a breathwork coach and teacher, so we got really into it. And this is when connection and relationships is really important. When I changed the people I was hanging out with, everything changed. Everything changed in a really exponential way.
So you mentioned just before we were going to go on the medication, you were saying to your friend like things are about to burst, like things are about to how do you know that was like you're getting to this tipping point? Like were you trying to change things and it wasn't changing? Like what was making you feel like, oh, things are about to go to nuts and go to shit? Like what were you feeling in that moment?
It was this idea that I'm just hiding everything, like taking the red wines off the plane, like that's not good behavior. And then having to have a triple shot coffee in the morning to make up for the drowsiness. It was like my heart rate. I wasn't aware, obviously I didn't have an Oura ring of all the metrics, but the anxiety was crippling. You know when you meet someone and they're just not present and they're a bit like
fully stimulated.
Yes.
Your body's just on edge all the time.
Your nervous system is completely out of whack. That's how I felt for years. And I often think about it, and I think about it because my mum is sick. We were speaking about it before. But I think about disease as dis-ease. And I think, what have those years done to my future self? I'm living as healthily as I can now, but those years of dis-ease and trauma is in my body. And yeah, it's quite frightening to think about how bad my nervous system was and how crippling the anxiety was. That was how I knew everything was falling apart.
Do you not feel like now though that you've kind of reprogrammed that and you've reprogrammed the stories you're telling about yourself and you have this newfound confidence in yourself and what you're doing, that like, I don't know, like that's not going to play a role in on your future in a sense? Like, yeah, maybe slashed a couple of years off who knows? But like for the most part, do you not feel empowered that like that's not holding you back at all still to this day? Or
I definitely feel empowered, but I also think it's important to recognize that you need to do the work to really let go of those things in the past, because there is trauma there. And as you know, trauma sits in the body. And so, the modalities like breath work, like movement really help at shifting that stagnant energy. And even how I respond to things in a healthy relationship now, sometimes I'm like, whoa, I really, had an outburst then. Why? Oh, because, that year that happened and that's why I feel this way. Again, it's the reflection, but you need to like do the work on those years because they sit in your body dormant.
Yeah. And I guess it's like, they're just like hanging around in your subconscious and you're probably acting, feeling, thinking based on those things. And you don't really pinpoint it to that unless you stop and look within. But you might act irrationally, or you might like get angry over something and it's so little, but the only reason you're getting angry is because of all the little bottles up of all the other things that you've experienced in the past, I guess. It's just this constant like reflection and learning of self. I'm finding like life is, right? Because we go through everything in our life and everyone has like their own degree of trauma that they've gone up like and lived through and experienced. Because when you're born, you don't have trauma, like you have no experiences, right? That's why like you cry easily and all of these things. But like you start to build up this tolerance of things, you start to learn new stuff and form all of these different stories about your life, and then some of those are traumas. And it's just like we're constantly trying to learn about ourselves, why we're wired the way we are, and then kind of navigate through that and grow. Hey, have you done a lot of self-reflection? Do you think all the breath work and all the different modalities you're doing now forces you to kind of reflect on those times and try and improve as a person?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think learning is actually a modality, and constantly trying to understand the body is an incredible way to actually work on those neuropathways. There's a book called The Source by Dr. Tara Swart, and it talks about we are able to change our neuroplasticity. We are able to rewire and reprogram the brain through these healthy modalities, the gratitude, the meditation, the healthy habits. I love the idea of, when you're a kid and you don't want to brush your teeth, it's the worst thing. Now it's like you would never skip it. It's a habit. As a kid, yes, that happens. But as an adult, that happens. I've just started my running journey and it's still hard, but it's definitely getting easier because my pathways are getting stronger. The neuroplasticity is building. So I don't want anyone to ever listen and be like, I was wired that way. This is how my life is. Woe is me. No, you take control of it. You learn and you rewire and reprogram your brain. Yep. That's why I'm so big on gratitude, because it's scientifically proven to make you a glass half full person if you practice it daily.
You can teach an old dog new tricks.
Fuck yeah.
And it's like this Psycho-Cybernetics, a book. It's like psycho-cybernetics. So cybernetics is the way something works, psycho brain. It's like understanding the brain and realizing that you can teach an old dog new tricks. People kind of live in this way of this is who I am. And I was like, well, it's not. Like it's not. Like, yeah, that's happened to you in the past, but like that's not your identity. At least maybe you are identifying as that right now, which is why your environment reflects that. But we can reprogram that identity and who we are, and then that will then form a new environment and a new life that we have, I guess. I mean, for me, I just feel like I hate it when there's a box or that there's a label on something, because then that's the thing. Whereas if we can try and be a bit more open-minded with things, we can kind of grow. And one of those things as well, we were talking at the cafe earlier about like changing different beliefs. And one of the things we spoke about was kids and having like kids. It's maybe earlier on in life or before you have met the person that you go, oh, this is going to be the father to our children sort of thing. You might have a belief that you don't want kids, right, as a girl. And then you kind of meet the one and you go, oh, I actually do want kids. And so that kind of proves it's like, all right, you're identifying as someone that doesn't want kids, but then something has happened and changed, and it's changed your belief, and now you do want kids. You've recently got engaged.
Yes.
Couple of days ago?
Best day of my life, like literally on Saturday.
On Saturday.
Yeah, so it's so fresh.
Which is wild. How do you feel about all of that? How good's love? And talk to me about like just the feeling that's going on in your mind about this phase of your life and this next chapter you're about to embark on.
You know what I find so interesting is I always thought when I got engaged, it would just be, obviously I'm so happy, but I knew about 6 months ago that I would want to spend the rest of my life with Tom. So we've been together for nearly 2 years, but it was about 6 months ago that really happened. And when he dropped a knee, of course I was nervous and things, but there was not a moment of doubt. It was the biggest yes I've ever said. And I'm so ready for this next phase of life. I think a few things have led to me being ready. One, meeting the man I want to spend the rest of my life with, but two, dealing with the impermanence of life with my mum and really understanding what matters and the joy that has fulfilled my life, but also my parents and their friends and my friends. Wow, this is what matters, like making those moments count. And yeah, I'm 30 this year. I feel like kids are definitely on the horizon. I was saying we're really rushing the wedding because of my mom being unwell at the moment. And there's just so much going on, but it actually doesn't feel overwhelming because I just feel so full of love. It's a pretty incredible feeling. And I pray that everyone gets to experience this just bursting of love through my whole body.
Does it make you question what matters in life?
Oh, yes. And look, I'm guilty. I flew in today to record with you, and there's moments where I find myself scrolling on Instagram, in the transit and the plane. But I'm aware that I'm like, stop. That doesn't matter. You have to have a level of awareness. What matters is I'm about to marry the love of my life. I'm going to be able to have my mum hopefully there, my dad, my family. And again, it's made me want to have a family because I want to share this love. And again, purpose is so important. I think it's made me realize that the modeling stuff really doesn't serve me that much anymore. I will do it because it pays well, but I'm not like chasing things. There's events on every single night and I rarely go to them now because what's more important? Seeing my mom or going to an event? Seeing my mom. And I just always want people to realize you don't want it to get to a moment where someone in your life is terribly ill and then you spend time with them. Like, let this be a lesson to you that life is fragile. Go inside, and there's a meditation that I love where you look at your mortality. So monks do this because it allows you to realize what's really important in the grand scheme of life. So you close your eyes. You can do it if you want. You can close down your eyes. And I just want you to picture yourself on your deathbed. No more breaths left. And I want you to ask yourself, what do you wish you had done more of? You won't get another day on this earth. What really meant something to you? And when I do this meditation at the end, we do a breath work. I get the audience to write down these things on a Post-it note and stick them around the house. Because when you find yourself worrying about an Instagram comment, worrying about something you said to somebody, look at that Post-it note and what really mattered. What do you wish you had done more of? I really doubt it's doom scrolling.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is I really doubt it's like chasing things. And one of the things that came to my mind is it's just like that deep realization of truly what actually matters. Like what are the things that like actually matter in life. And money's a cool thing. It unlocks a lot of freedom in your life, ability to help people experience awesome stuff. But like deep down, the most fond memories that we have are not things that evolve around money. Like it's going down to the beach and doing nothing with your best friend, or it's like picking up your partner and spinning them around and giving them a kiss after you bought them some flowers.
Aww.
Like it's like little things, right, that really are the memories that stand the test of time and the ones that matter. And it's just a friendly reminder for when you're going through like extreme, call it chaos in your life, where you're doing so many things and you can't even bring yourself to take that 10 minutes of walking down to the beach and going for a swim, or like calling your dad, or getting coffee with your mum, or whatever it might be, right? Like doing the things that truly matter in your life, because knowing that like you're going to get older, you're going to have potentially less people around you, you're not going to be able to do as many things, and all you're going to wish for is these moments back. And that's a really cool, it's quite a powerful meditation. I had my leg up here and I started like shaking a little bit. I was a bit like, wow. And so when we talk about phases of life, like what phase would you say that you are in? Like, are you in like a time to grind, sort of like I really want to take what I'm doing to the next level? Are you in like I want to settle down, like build a family? Like what sort of phase are you in your life, would you say?
I feel like I'm in the transition phase from modeling to businesswoman. And because the business and the podcast and the journals is my purpose and my passion, like I want to put all my energy into that. However, the silver lining to my mum being so unwell is recognizing, even though I'm in this growth mindset and I just want to hustle, I need to take time to be with my family, to be with my friends, and to not be so focused on career right now. I love what I do. I think what's incredible with social media is sharing your life and the authenticity, the hardships, the engagements, that personal life. Your audience actually really respond to that. So I can still share my life on socials, but in terms of like business and growth, it's second to just being with my family. And like, as I said, I'm going to get married in basically 2 weeks. I just got engaged. That's my priority, because I won't get that day back, but the business stuff will be there in 2 weeks, 6 months, whatever it is.
Yeah. And the business stuff solves that fulfillment piece in life, but it doesn't solve the peace or the joy pillars of life. Like that thing to strive towards, that thing that makes you want to spring out of bed and work towards something, purpose, mission, that solves that like fulfillment box, which is maybe like one little pillar of the overarching feeling of happiness. But the joyful moments, the fleeting times with the people that you care about, like that's extremely important. The feeling of having peace of mind and not having your mind racing all the time and be able to just switch off and be present. Like these are all really important things in life. And I think, yeah, it's cool to be able to recognize that. And obviously having such a event like your poor mother being really sick, like makes you kind of think about that and go within and go, okay, like let's lean into these things and like really soak it all in while we have it. So we're not regretting that we didn't when we don't, in a sense.
And also my mum's gratitude in us rushing everything, it makes it so worth it, She had bought the dress to wear to my wedding in June last year. Wasn't even engaged yet. My brother got married last year, and 2023, my mum had a surgery that removed her bowel, colon, appendix, spleen, uterus, ovaries. It was a 13-hour surgery. Before she went into that surgery, she'd bought the shoes and the dress she was wearing to my brother's wedding. Like, she's just incredibly positive. She is my biggest inspiration. I was saying she's watching Tony Robbins in the hospital bed and does her gratitude every day. And I think having her as my biggest motivator is the best thing I could have asked for. And I think people look at me and they feel sorry for me and, you're so strong, you're so this. But my mum is still my mum. When I see her, she's coherent. She's bubbly. She's my mom. She's not mentally ill. She's sick, and cancer doesn't discriminate, and it's a really hard disease because 6 weeks ago she was completely fine and a really positive path, and it really turned quickly. And the way she's dealt with this with resilience, with strength, and with grace, like what a role model for me to have.
What would you say some of the main lessons you've learned from your mum is?
She always says, have fun. She thinks people aren't having enough fun these days, which I agree with. Like people in social settings on their phone, like have fun. And that's what Tom's really brought out of me because he's such a joyful. We have a golden retriever. I call him my golden retriever because he's just always happy. She's taught me to be resilient and to be strong. And she's taught me to see the positive in everything. And the last thing as well is to have a family and how important it is because we've been there for mum. Who knows what my future will bring? I want a family around me to love me and to care for me if shit hits the fan, because the only thing in life we know for sure is change. So this is when that value of family becomes so strong.
And is there anything you feel like you have really wanted in the past, and maybe when you're having more of these realizations, your drive and want for those certain things have like changed? Is there anything like maybe growing, like over the last 10 years in your 20s, you've been like striving towards or like chasing, and then you feel like things have changed now that you've experienced things like your mum being sick and stuff? Is it, there might not be, but is there anything that you feel like you've had pivots in the way you've viewed the world or the things that you've wanted in the last little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what comes to mind straight away is that the constant need to be validated online, because I know myself when I'm my happiest, I'm not posting online. And it's made me realize how important it is to be in the present moment. And often I just don't want to look at my phone at all. I just really want to be present in every moment. That's probably like the biggest thing. And I guess the hardest thing as well is when you go through hardships like this, sometimes it's hard to relate to other people because the things that they're complaining about feel super irrelevant to what you're actually dealing with. But in that sense, I also don't disregard when people are going through hardships because, again, it's your own experience and your human experience that is why you put things in certain categories. But yeah, I think it's put a lot into perspective. I also think for me, with my own purpose and drive, I feel more driven and full of purpose than ever because what I'm doing is helping people and making women specifically very aware of their health and their cycle and knowing that being in pain isn't normal. Like my mum was misdiagnosed for a whole year. And if she wasn't misdiagnosed for that whole year, it would have really changed the outcome. So I think normalizing pain really needs to be out. I saw a study that 93% of all studies have been on men. So women are, getting the same protocols as men, but we're very different. We've got a 28-day infradian rhythm, very different to a man.
Yeah. Do you feel like you mentioned there that like it's harder to relate to people? You've had a lot of change over the past however long since 2019, really, when you started discovering all these modalities and you've grown a lot as a person and you've changed. Has it been hard navigating friendships and connecting with people because you've been growing so much as a person? Has it been hard to navigate friends, or have you been pretty consistent with it?
I would say I'm a very easygoing person. So the people I've let go of, there's no bad blood. It's just we have different similarities. I haven't had a drink since October, so not having alcohol in my life has also, changed the friendships, which is so fine. The most amazing thing is it's really shown me who cares so much and strengthen those relationships. The people that reach out every week or drop you a loco love at your door or those little things have really shown me the friendships that matter. And in terms of my relationship, it has made us stronger than ever. Like this is make or break. Going through a mum very unwell with cancer can make or break your relationship. And I feel so connected to Tom. I see the love my family have for him, and that has strengthened that relationship tenfold.
And the love he has for them.
Oh my God. I was telling you that
Yeah.
the 2 days before Tom proposed. So I knew he was gonna propose on our anniversary, but 2 days before I went to the hospital to visit my mum, and I didn't know Tom would be there. And he was in there holding her hand, crying. And I was like, why are you crying? And he's just, I just love your mum so much. And then that night he's like, do you want to go away? Like Valentine's Day, we'll go away. And I was like, they've been scheming. Yeah, and then he just dropped the knee. But you know, as well, the ring that I wear, it's my great grandma's ring that my mum gave to him to give to me when he asked for her blessing. Like my family love this man so much. It's the biggest testament to him, and it just reassures me a million times over that this is my person. Like you know what the thing is? We've kind of dived into relationships a bit. I never thought I'd be 100% on someone. I think a lot of people feel like that. Like but there's so many options. How can you be 100%? Like I'm 110%. It's crazy. I never thought I would feel that way. I've always thought I'd think, what if?
Do you think it's a feeling, like how do you know, like how do you have the certainty that he's the one? Like is it a feeling you've had for ages? You mentioned 6 months ago was when you really you decided you wanted to spend the rest of your life with him, but like how do you know? Like do you have any tips on choosing the right partner?
I think you need to go through hardship. I think you need to go through tough times. I'm not saying they have to be as extreme as this, but whether it's living together and, you know, discussing everything that's involved with that. I think the first 3 months of a relationship or a honeymoon phase, I've always been that girl who just goes head over heels. My friends are like, you're crazy. I'm just full of dopamine and serotonin, like loved up. And then that kind of fades, the relationship matures. And I think you need to be with someone for at least a year. And then in that time, you need to have hardships. But, you know, when they say, when you know, you know, I don't think it's instantly when you know, but I think you'll have a moment in the relationship. And that's when you know, you know.
Yeah. The depth of connection piece is I've thought about this a bit, like the depth of your connection with someone is the amount of high times you've experienced and how high they are and how low you've experienced, and the polarity between the two. Like the wider it is, typically you have a stronger connection. Like if you look at everyone in your life that you're the closest with, you've probably experienced extreme lows and extreme highs with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think being able to overcome the lows and experience highs creates this bond like no other, which is really cool. You mentioned that obviously there's a lot happening in your life right now with the engagement and then like your mum's sickness and then you're doing the wedding. But you mentioned before that it's not overwhelming, it like feels right. If it's not overwhelming and you're like planning all of this stuff, what would you say your biggest challenge would be in life right now, having to navigate all of that? And is there a challenge that's outlining for the most part?
I think even though it doesn't feel overwhelming as such, it's mum being sick is my biggest challenge because it just comes in such big waves. And I think it's accepting a really hard pill to swallow that I haven't accepted yet. Maybe I'm too good at my gratitude or something, but I'm still trying to be, or am very positive about the situation. And yeah, I guess I don't want to believe what's going on. I don't want to know. I think that the extremities and what's actually taking place, which is a little bit of a naive place to be and a little bit, I don't know how to word it as such, but It's definitely the biggest challenge. Having to see my mum in hospital for the last month, finding out that she will not be coming home and she's staying there, like that's the last thing you want to hear as a daughter.
Yeah.
With a mum who is my biggest role model.
Yeah. And I guess like you're like, it's a naive place to have a positive outlook, but what's the alternative?
I agree.
Like it's shit. It sucks. But like being able to use and like to be able to be positive in that moment shows your growth as well, to be able to do that and use that strength that you have to be able to go through such a hard time and kind of see light somehow. And obviously you said you haven't accepted it, but it's like, don't accept it. Like, it's like I don't want to accept it. Yeah. No, like, it's like,
because you don't know. Nothing is for sure. And we were talking about the power of the mind. My mom is so positive. So for me, it's like, I still think she's got this. And I also want to talk on the spirituality side of things. When you meditate and do gratitude and you do breath work, you become a lot more of a spiritual person, and you believe in fate. You believe in a path, and you believe that through every experience there's growth. And knowing this, what life throws my way is exactly how it was meant to be. It's exactly how the universe planned it. And nothing I can do can change the outcome, can change how anything goes. And I think that's an incredible affirmation to practice if you're someone who feels overwhelmed with the what ifs. Like, I am exactly where I'm meant to be, and I trust the universe.
Is there a level of freedom or peace that comes with that belief? Like just a level of like knowing that it's divine timing and everything's meant to be? Like, is there a level of peace that comes with believing that?
I think it's the only thing that's getting me through this time. I think it's the only thing that's saving me from being an absolute mess. When I talk to some people and they're like, how are you living? How are you doing anything? Mum would hate for me to just be sitting on my couch crying. Mum would hate that. I think that that's been my respite, and that has been my savior, is the trusting of the universe, trusting of the messenger, and knowing that whatever gets thrown my way, I will be okay.
Amen to that. I think we should wrap it up there. Is there anything else you want to share before we close out this, or are we good?
I think I would love to share that if anyone's not tried a gratitude practice, it's so simple. And to just think of 3 things you're grateful for every day for 30 days, write it on a piece of paper, put it in your phone notes, and just see how your life changes. Because that was the most transformative ritual I ever did.
And while we're on that, do you want to quickly promo your journal, Self-Dom? Is it Self-Dom?
Self-journal. Yeah, so I sell a journal, Self-Journal. I'll do a little discount code. Use Pocket at checkout for 20% off. It's got your prompts for your morning and night, and it's very aesthetic. So we'll make sure you do it.
That's so cool. There you go. Pocket, Pocket, 20% off. Thank you so much, Dom. Go and check it out. Go and try it out. I just want to commend you and thank you so much for sharing your story, and just like what you're going through is not something that's like an easy thing to deal with, and you're hitting it face on like the boss of your own life you are. And I just want to commend you for the way you show up and how amazing you are. So congratulations for everything you're doing. And I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Chris. Congratulations for everything you are doing. Incredible work.
And I'll leave all of Dom's details in the show notes and the description below alongside the journal too. So you can go and check that out for yourself. But if you've enjoyed the show, please take a screenshot of this and tag Dom and I so you can let us know that you've made it to the end and that you enjoyed the show. And leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple, because it helps the show grow and helps us keep getting amazing people just like Dom back on the show. But we are going to sign out for this week, but I'll see you next week. See you guys.